Hello, everyone. Thank you for turning on this podcast. If you enjoy it, I hope that you do subscribe and rate and review and share. And here we go with part 2 of Devin's interview. And if you haven't listened to his first part, go do that first. So, what about movies, TV shows? How do those? How are those different for you when you get high?
Well, I'm a pretty TV free guy. But I mean, I do love my movies just like anybody. Yeah, when I first started smoking weed, I grew up like watching a lot of TV. There's kind of always a TV on at the house, and it was sometime before I started getting high that I kind of it dawned on me one day when I was in high school. I was like, TV sucks. I don't want to watch this anymore. You know, it was like coming home and Jerry Springer was on, and I would just watch it because that's just what you did. And then so I kind of got out of watching TV in general for a long time. And I still, I mean, these days TV is so different anyway with all the different streaming services and whatever. But I do, yeah, I watch movies but. Yeah, back then, I don't know, when I was smoking the most weed is probably when I watched the least amount of movies or anything. Like I really kind of dropped out of a lot of pop culture stuff in general. So for me, I think I was like, it affected my movie and TV watching by just making me more decidedly so not into watching movies and TV.
Yeah. Do you have any memories of happen to be watching a movie and being high, or was that just did not happen?
Yeah, no, it definitely happened. I mean, I only have a few memories of that. I remember like I went with my brother to see I can't even remember the name of the movie, which is ridiculous. I want to say it's called Jackie Brown. Is that a movie?
Yes, that's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah, right. So that came out, like whenever that came out, we went to see it in the theater, stoned off our gourds, and I want to say it was like Christmas Day or something when it was released, and and that's I don't know, probably the late 90s or something, but yeah. So I went to see it, and there you go. I can't even really remember the name of it, and I have zero memory of the movie at all. Like So, but I remember that it's funny. I remember going to the theater with my brother and and we had I think we probably smoked weed like in the parking lot of the mall,
right.
Like before going into the theater kind of thing. And then just, but yeah, that was like not a big part of my experience with and still remains to be not a big part of my experience with smoking weed is like sit down and watch a screen. That's just it's not where it's at for me.
I feel that. I have a love-hate relationship with that world in general. So basically the moral of that story, or the summary of that story, was that you got high, you went and saw the movie, and that was it. You don't barely even remember the name, but you saw it and you were high, but that's it.
I mean, this is like 20 years ago, to be fair. So I mean, I don't know, but I feel like I've felt that way about that experience for for the last 15 years. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that movie. I know I saw it, but I don't remember a thing from it. But like I said, I remember going with my brother. So. Yeah.
I feel like that's a common experience with me anyway. Oh yeah, I saw that movie. I don't remember anything about it.
Well, there you go. It might be we might be drawing a correlation here.
Yeah. Well, I think just genetically I have a terrible memory anyway.
Sure.
So what about the food and the munchies?
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah? You experience the munchies?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, classic munchies, and want to drink a lot of water. I drink tons of water as is, like every day. I don't know how much I drink, but I always have a cup of water sitting around, and I'm always drinking water. So yeah, I feel like definitely whenever I've gotten stoned, I'm like, I don't even know. I mean, I've definitely had cotton mouth, but definitely just like it just inspires me to drink more water right off the bat. And then some point, usually as the more intensely psychedelic part of the experience that I might be having starts to wind down is when like the munchies seem to really set in. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm just hungry now. I just like want to eat like a whole thing of Oreos. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty classic.
And would that happen?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll just gorge out on whatever. I'm a pretty healthy eater in general, but like I'm pretty good at just like binging on stuff when I feel like it too. In general, like so completely stone cold sober or whatever. So, but yeah, with the munchies, I'll let myself just like. I mean, I don't eating box of Oreos. That's kind of extreme. I wouldn't just eat like a whole box of cookies.
Just one row.
Yeah, but probably a row for sure.
Yeah.
But I might do that. Just like I might do that anyway.
Those are the joys of being an adult. You can make these decisions for yourself, and you might have to pay for the consequences, but you can do it. You can choose to do it.
Totally. That's how I feel. It's like, hey man, we're we got this life. It's the only one we got. And yeah, we're adults now. We could do all those things that we said we would do when we were kids. It's like, I'm going to eat the whole bag of Halloween candy when I'm an adult, or whatever. It's like,
yes.
yeah,
yes.
we can do all that stuff.
And then you
now.
get to a point and you're like, well, actually, I do want to kind of eat healthy, so I'm only going to do this every once in a while. Or not.
Right. And yeah, it's funny because, I mean, really, like, eating, like, a bunch of candy, like, feels gross to me anyway. But I'll totally, anyway, so the munchies is definitely a thing, though. For me, I definitely, experience all that sort of stuff for sure.
Yeah. And just food in general, when you're just, eating a meal and you're high, do you have any memories of sort of how your experience of the food is different, either the physical sensation or the mental sensation?
I'd say if anything, I mean, not in particular, I mean, I can think of like times where I've had the munchies and eaten something and it's tasted really good, and I'm aware that it tastes extra good just because I'm kind of on this like sensory, all my senses are just kind of lit up, or that's how it feels, but yeah, generally like these days when like I smoke weed, it's usually like in the evening, like kind of after meal time. So if I am eating, it's like kind of coming down, eating like some chips or something. It's not like I'm like going out for dinner, eating a big meal. That kind of sounds unappealing to me, personally. So
it might be like an after dinner snack.
Yeah. But I would think if anything, like when during the times where I was like smoking weed on the regular, I would say if anything, my eating was probably maybe a little more hurried or something, because I was just like enjoying it and just like kind of just gorging myself. I don't know, I mean
I mean that's what we do sometimes.
Yeah.
So this next question is more personal, so feel free to just say pass if you want, but it has to do with sex. If this was something that you ever experienced when high, how was that experience different?
Yeah, that's okay. I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, I definitely have over the years, and generally my experience has been totally awesome. I think because I am such a body sensory type of a person. And I'm in my personal life, I'm in my physical relationships with people. Like I love all the getting down to the bed sexy time. Like that's some of my favorite stuff in life. So I love being in that experience. And honestly, that's like probably something that I could probably explore more, where I feel like that would be a great time where I could really focus on feeling good and almost not even have the chance to go down this like this other sort of internal philosophical road by just being like, hey, let's get it on and smoke a little weed, and like it'd probably just be awesome, but yeah, so I definitely can remember some of my first experiences with like just in general making out and having sexual relationships with coupled with smoking weed. And remember definitely feeling like the first few times being like, oh yeah, this is something else, like there was definitely some heightened sensory stuff. So yeah.
And obviously you don't need to get into any details, but was it more of a physical difference in feeling, or was it mental as well?
Physical. Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely physical. I mean, and physical and mental, I mean, and, of course we're leaving out like any sort of other like spiritual or metaphysical type
Right.
things, but I'm pretty randomly agnostic, or just, I just don't know what the hell's going on. But yeah, right. So, I mean, if physical and mental are the options, then for sure it was freaking physical, and not very mental, but,
But I mean,
yeah.
I think the spiritual side of things is definitely something that comes up sometimes with cannabis with people. Like, is there, does that come into play at all for you? Not even just with sex, just in general.
Yeah. Oh, big time. I mean, so yeah, like I said, I am agnostic or whatever, because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just like, yep, I have no clue, and if I said I knew what was going on, I'd be lying. So what am I gonna say? But yeah, I revel in pondering existence, and thinking about what it means to be alive, what it means to be human, and I've researched or studied some different philosophies of stuff. I mean, I grew up in a Unitarian church in a pretty relaxed sort of manner, so I never really had any specific like religious thing really pounded, at me, which I'm really glad about. But yeah, I've always been somewhat of a spiritual questioner and wonderer, and which I imagine everybody is somewhere deep inside, if they express it outwardly or not. And so yeah, and definitely smoking weed and that has definitely been something that's always, along with, like I said, the sort of internal feelings that I can get where I really start seeing things in a different perspective. That's usually something that comes up pretty quick, and even more than spiritual, I guess, or it's just sort of, I mean, yeah, it's just kind of asking the big questions, which, high or not, I feel like I'm asking often, just inside of myself, and
Yeah.
there's lots of people out there who have answers, and and I tend to not believe anybody who has too strong of answers, because
Right.
I'm like, oh, I don't know, how do you know, but yeah, that definitely comes up. It's like, I innocently step outside and look up at the stars. I'm like, man, the stars are cool. And then, like, 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, everything is meaningless. What is this? Because like you just kind of get lost in like the expansiveness of the universe or whatever. And I feel like the same thing can definitely happen for me for getting high, where it's just like you just get such a perspective shift where it just kind of gives everything a sense of, well, meaningless is one way to put it, but
Right.
where what was once very meaningful and important suddenly seems not so meaningful and important. So it doesn't mean that there's no meaning. It just means that I don't
Just
know.
how it feels.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you're sending my thoughts right back to me, because yeah, this is stuff that I think about all the time. And honestly, I don't really ask specifically about spirituality really all that often when I do these, but it's definitely something that I think about. I think it's something that a lot of other people do think about. So I do want to, I think, specifically ask about that more so, because it has come up in a lot of my past interviews, meditation and yoga, and just, I I think the thing that cannabis does, one of the big things, is it automatically takes you to another spiritual level of consciousness, whether you're aware of it or not, or whether it's true or not. I don't know, but
Right.
yeah, that's a really, really big topic too. Any other sort of last thoughts on like cannabis and spirituality?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it is for me, cannabis and spirituality have definitely been intertwined. Like I said, I mean, it just in, at the very least, in the I don't know. Yeah, where do I go with that?
And that it's a big topic, and it's hard to think about, so you don't necessarily have to go more into that if there's nothing specific to say. But yeah, I think it's interesting to hear what people think about that. So this next topic may or may not be related to spirituality for you, but I want to learn a little bit more about your experience with cannabis and skateboarding specifically.
Yeah.
What Because I was never a skateboarder. I think that there were times when you would be skateboarding and I might hop on a skateboard, and feel very, very uncomfortable and be like, all right, I'm done, I'm good.
Sure.
But then I
sure.
see all these, everybody around me is very comfortable with it. So, it's a world that I'm not really all that familiar with. What was the experience of skateboarding like being high for you?
It was just freaking awesome. The first time I remember, so I had probably smoked weed like probably like a good solid like 6 times at least by myself before ever smoking with anybody else. And the first person I started smoking with was a buddy of mine who's a skateboarding buddy, who he was already like, kind of a stoner at the time, and I knew that. So then, it was like one day we were hanging out and I was like, hey, guess what? I found a bag of weed and I started smoking it. He's like, wait, what? And so then, we smoked some weed together and we're hanging out. And then he's like, yeah, man, so we should go skate. And I remember I was just like, wait, what? No. We cannot skate and be high. That's crazy. No way.
What did you think would happen?
Oh, so then we went and tried it, and right away I was just like, oh yeah, this is completely awesome. I think I was worried that it was gonna be that I was gonna like be uncoordinated. I was just in such this altered sort of giddy state. I just felt so different than my normal everyday self that it seemed like somehow it would be too much to try it. And then, yeah, like I said, we tried it, and it was just like, oh, no, I totally have my coordination. And not only that, but I feel really connected to my skateboard. I feel really connected to my movements and to my body. I think it would probably be potentially a bad idea to smoke weed and to try to learn something like that,
Okay.
But I don't know, maybe not,
Do what's comfortable.
Yeah, but at that point I was already so in tune with my skateboard and skateboarding anyway that it was a pretty natural thing for me to do. So that was just really heightened, and it was it was really cool. I remember being so surprised that first time, and then after that it was just like, yeah, I want to do this again and again and again. This is so much fun. And so I did, and I had the same experience with eating acid, actually, which I did there was a couple years there where, yeah, I, would eat acid with somewhat regularly, I guess, or I don't know, more than a handful of times anyway. And that was always socially. It was always, some friend had some and was like, yeah, I'll do that. And I had nothing but awesome experiences doing that too. And, but yeah, I had kind of the same experience where, I got on my skateboard and I was like, oh yeah, this feels right. This feels safe and this feels good. And even more so, honestly, like with LSD, I was just like, I felt very comfortable on my skateboard. And, it almost felt like, in the midst of like going very fast and, and doing some like big air over something or just grinding on whatever, I felt like time would slow down. These moments where like, it's almost like you're moving in slow motion and could really just like intensely move little things. Like you could really subtly kind of manipulate. Felt like I could subtly manipulate my skateboard and my body. Yeah, which was really neat.
You're more in tune with those smaller things that, maybe when you're sober, you can't focus in so tiny,
Yeah, it's flying by so fast that
right.
like, and somehow that didn't seem to be the case. And then the same thing with smoking weed to some degree, definitely. Like I said, I always felt like a hyper focus. And so for me, yeah, skateboarding was just like, it felt pretty natural to do them both. And, and this goes back to you asking about creativity. I guess I put it all towards my art and music, my answer. But now thinking back, I'm like, undeniably, I could say that I probably was more creative on my skateboard when I was smoking weed because it's like a weird kind of dance, skateboarding to me is so, it's not very calculated. It's very free form anyway. Like my style of skateboarding, like I don't, I kind of, I'll start pushing, like if I'm at a skate park or just at a street spot or whatever. It's like I'm approaching the curb. I probably know the trick I'm gonna do, but I don't know what I'm gonna do after that. And then it's just like if you keep rolling and keep going, it's like you're just kind of dancing in this way or just kind of improvising. And so I always definitely really enjoyed how that improvisation occurred when I was high. I feel like that's that I could say that my creativity was enhanced, I guess, or at least altered.
Yeah, I've never heard it described that way. Not that I talk to a lot of skateboarders anyway, but that's a very interesting way to describe it. Of I may know this one specific thing, but when you think about it in general, when you're just sort of going along, it is very improvisational. Unless you're like actually planning out a routine of some kind for maybe a competition or something,
Right.
You're just sort of doing whatever happens. And so, yeah, I could see how cannabis could assist in that. I don't think there's any good way for you to describe it. I don't know if anybody could put it into words, but I just find the idea of, I'm just so fascinated about like what's going on in the brain, what is the thought process of like being high and skateboarding and, I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass right now, but like I just find that idea just so interesting of like what does it feel like, but it is what it is. I don't know. And then probably like the wind blowing through your hair or something. That's just an experience that you don't get to have when you're just on your feet.
Right. Yeah, skateboarding rules, man. Just talking about it. I mean, I still skateboard. I don't skate as much as I used to, but I still do skate fairly often, and I'm so glad that I fell into that thing because it's such a fun, creative, sort of improvisational sort of a movement. Yeah.
Well, when we're done here, you're gonna go get high, and then you're gonna go skateboard, right?
Gosh, I might honestly. It's been a while. It's been a while since I have experienced that combination.
Yeah.
But and I'm not getting any younger, so I always want to be safe. But
Yeah, put on those pads.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that rules that we've already talked a lot about is music. How is music affected to you when you're high, both playing and listening?
Yeah. As far as playing, yeah, kind of like I said earlier, I think there's probably times where I get into like some sort of a improvisational noodle. I should say, starting out, like, musically, my happy place when I'm alone, when I'm just playing music, is sort of improvising. Like I spend a lot of time just playing guitar and just kind of seeing where I end up. Kind of in the same way like skateboarding, like I said, where you kind of, you have something you're going to work with and then you just kind of go from there. So I do that regardless, like if I'm sober or whatever, but definitely when I'm high, I feel definitely a sort of a relaxation into that sort of zone where I can really go off some places and noodle around and feel, I don't know, relaxed to do so. And yeah, musically, I don't always know that the stuff I come up with while I'm high is necessarily better or different. And yeah, sometimes like I'll come up with something, or I'll kind of stumble onto like some sort of chord progression or something I'm just kind of messing with, and I'll, oftentimes these days, like when I'm playing and improvising like that, if I kind of fall on something really cool that I'm gonna want to remember, I'll really quickly just record it, kind of voice memo style on my phone, just so I can, hear it back, because, so I don't lose track of it later. And sometimes I'll listen back to that kind of stuff and be like, oh, no, that actually sounds kind of lame. But, again, the same thing happens when I'm sober, so I can't, yeah, I think if anything, when I'm high musically, when I'm playing, like I probably just at least feel, like I said, that sort of lessening of my inhibitions, a little bit more just of a internal invitation just to go forward and not worry about it, what I'm doing. And Yeah, and I don't know if that could necessarily be described as more creative or what, but just at least maybe more exploratory.
Yeah, sounds like you're more open to whatever happens.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's funny because I don't want to chalk it all up to that because I do feel pretty open musically anyway, but maybe just there's other, yeah, I probably do come up with ideas that I wouldn't have come up with sober. So I guess, yeah, again, it's sort of an altered creativity sort of thing. And then yeah, as far as listening to music, I feel like there's that old original experience I had of listening to the Dark Side of the Moon, and which it's probably hundreds of thousands of people who have also done that, if not more, that exact album or whatever. But I feel like my early days of getting high, I definitely was enjoying that sort of experience, that sort of like just kind of chasing a feeling of bliss, and music being a part of that. So like kind of being like, yeah, I'm going to put on this music and I'm really just going to zone out into it and just feel this awesomeness, and that definitely became less and less. But I mean, for me, listening to music is a huge part of my life. I listen to music while I work. I mean, for many people, but I don't know. So I guess, yeah, these days listening to music, it's probably less like zoning out and kind of feeling all blissful on it, and it's more like experiencing it, but also like I might pick it apart more. I might get more like, might be thinking about it more and being like, not in a negative way, like picking it apart, like knocking somebody's style, but more just like kind of like analyzing it almost, from my perspective as a musician, and
Paying attention to the music and the lyrics in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any pieces of music that you already knew well that you listened to high, and did you notice something different about them?
I can't say there is. I mean, that probably has occurred, but yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm sure that's occurred just in the way of like there's probably like some random photograph that I've seen a million times, and the first time I look at it high, like I'm like, oh my god, and I see it in this fresh perspective. So I mean, there's always that thing of like you have a fresh perspective, but yeah, and nothing jumps out like there wasn't some like big moment with some song where I had some realization,
Major
about
epiphany
it
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like for you, it's a lot more about the plain music. If getting high is fairly rare for you, but if it's going to happen, it's probably more about playing music and then listening to it, especially since listening to music is kind of a daily thing for you.
Right. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, if I was high listening to music, I'd probably just like after 5 minutes, I'd be like, ooh, I just want to turn this off and play something.
Yeah, definitely. Music is such a big thing, I think, for people in general, and then when you add cannabis to it, it takes on another life. So you sort of touched on this a little bit, so I'm not sure if there's much more to say about this, but has your view of the world changed? This is a very big question. Has your view of the world changed since you started getting high? Have you learned any insights or anything?
Right. Yes. I mean, definitely my view of the world has changed. And I don't know 100% what I can attribute to the fact that I'm getting high, or just that I'm growing in all sorts of ways. But most certainly, my cannabis use, and I feel like my use of just other like psychedelics has certainly influenced my view of the world politically and just socially, like as far as just how I think about other people, and just in every way. Yeah, for a long time I've always thought that the world would benefit from everybody, just like getting dosed with acid. Or at least like, all the world leaders, just like the people who are really like making stuff move, so they'd have more compassion or something, because I mean, and I'm not alone in that thought, I know, but yeah, I mean, not that I'm advocating dosing somebody unknowingly, but but if there was a way to make that happen where it was like, look, we're going to give you this, it's going to be good for you, you're going to come out on the other side with more understanding of just basic humanity and like what it means to be alive.
And probably compassion and love.
Right. Hopefully, you come out on that side of it and not like turn into some like super demon or something. But, so I feel like, my cannabis use has definitely helped me in those regards of feeling that stuff. And probably more so, I would say some of the other psychedelic stuff I've done, where I've really kind of given attention and focus to just those kind of thoughts of like, what it means to be a human and I mean, without knowing what it means, but like at least like what I could do to be the best I can, to be compassionate, to be helpful, and to do less harm and to do more good in the world. And so, I mean, I pretty much, like, without a doubt would say that cannabis has most certainly helped me on that journey,
Yeah. It would be so interesting to know, like, what version of you is out there if you had never, picked up that bag. If you had stayed on that straight edge path, what version of you, what would that look like? I don't know. No way to know.
Right. I know. And that's kind of a trip because I do think about that. And that almost makes me change my answer because I'm like, well, it's not like I was a jerk before or anything. And I hope I would be pretty compassionate anyway. I don't know. But yeah, right. But I love that idea of thinking about, what if I never did any of that and was just kind of like more of a straight and sober guy. Yeah, because I mean, my lifestyle has been like pretty like, I build and fix guitars for a living, and I've been pretty independent that way. And I wonder like if I was always a sober guy, if I would have gotten more into just doing something maybe less creative, or if I still would have, I mean, there's I guess a fair chance that I still would have totally been just a guitar repair person and super creative. I don't know, or not that I'm saying I'm super creative, but like been on a more creative path,
Right. I think you were sort of destined to do something in that world, given who your parents are, with the art and the creativity and the music, that was, I think, ingrained in you.
It kind of seems like it. Yeah. I definitely am really lucky to have had music and art be a strong place in my childhood.
Yeah. And what do you think your future with cannabis might be like? There's no way to know for sure, but, just based on your recent experience, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm still always attracted to cannabis. Like I probably mostly would still just smoke it because that's how I've enjoyed it. I enjoy the ritual of smoking. I used to smoke cigarettes. I don't anymore, but I do enjoy smoking something. So I'll probably, still smoke weed when I get the urge. And, I wonder about that actually, because I do think sometimes I feel like if I found just the right variety and just sort of the sweet spot and just the right timing in my life, like, maybe I would smoke it more. I'm a gardener, I mean, I have a backyard vegetable garden, and I've always thought that would be really fun just to grow my own. And I mean, and how appealing if I did, and it was like just a variety that just really suited my needs. Like that sort of stuff is really appealing to me. But like I said, but then, my actual experience with smoking is these days is kind of hit or miss. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, especially considering the fact that you've got that one jar that has just a mix of stuff in it. So who knows what little bit that you're pulling out or something.
That's true. I should say that's not the only thing that I smoke. I mean, there's definitely times where I've actually gotten some stuff from some of the shops here and other friends, but that's just the stuff that's always there,
Yeah.
It's always at the ready if I get that urge. Yeah.
Right, exactly. From what you were explaining, you tend to like the more physical feeling, and from my limited knowledge, it sounds like you would want something that's probably also high in CBD. in addition maybe to the THC, which is, CBD is the thing that, reduces the inflammation in the body. It has more of the physical effect, while the THC is more of the head high. So yeah, that's definitely something that you could start looking for, because it's out there now. It wasn't something that, we were really even aware of not all that long ago, but now these days it's definitely something that you can get.
Yeah, completely. And honestly, like having this conversation with you, that at some point will be soon, but because I'm inspired now. But I'll probably like do a little research and maybe do some small tests of some different varieties and see. I did a few years ago. I threw out my back. I had some real bad sciatic nerve pain and amongst other things that I was doing to sort of, stretching, I was doing some acupuncture and just trying to sort of heal myself, while I was in, sort of dealing with all this pain. CBD, was a big one. I went to one of the shops here and just got some candies that had CBD. And I know, like, even since then, this was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. I feel like even since then, like, stuff has evolved even more. I know there's tons of like CBD like balms and salves and stuff that externally done, but at the time I'd got these candies anyway that were like mostly CBD with like a teeny percentage of THC in them, and I was taking 2 at a time and enjoying them and feeling ever so slightly high from them too, but in a pretty mild way. And it was hard to say how much it I definitely didn't feel like this intense body high or anything, but I felt pretty certain that it at least was. It certainly wasn't hurting anything, and it seemed to be maybe part of the therapy that was helping to relax my back muscles that were spasming out over my nerve. But and then there was one time where I decided just to take 3 of them because I was just feeling an amount of pain.
Adventurous.
And that was the magic ticket to send me overboard. I mean, not in a negative way, but it was pretty hilarious. Like it was like 2 of them like barely got me high, and that third one, like all of a sudden I felt like I was like 18 again. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome.
You're like, I just wanted my back to feel better.
Right, exactly. So
well, there are definitely ones that have no THC that are all, or so small that you can't even, nothing will happen, but that are basically all CBD.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know. And and now I feel like I'm a little more aware of that stuff. But yeah, anyway, that was just
we're all learning
experience. Yeah.
Well, we are at the end. I just have one more question for you, which is, what would you like to say to cannabis? A way to think about this is if it were going away and you were never to be able to experience it again, what would you want it to know?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, certainly I would like to express gratitude first, just for what I have experienced through the use of cannabis, and gratitude, because I feel like I have taken that as a medicine in my life, and also just as a I don't even know how to put it, but just I've definitely connected with cannabis. So yeah, certainly would say thanks for the memories, thanks for what you do.
Yeah. Well, and
good and bad, or happy and sad, or whatever it is, but
right.
Yeah.
And thank you to agreeing to do this interview. Pretty short notice, actually. I was very excited because, like I said, we, to my audience, you already know this. We haven't had a lot of experience talking to each other over many, many years. We all go our own paths as we get older. You moved out to the West, and I stayed in the Chicago area. But every once in a while, I hear little bits of what you're doing in your life, and I was always super excited and happy for you that you were, still being very creative and musical. Something that I always sort of wanted to do, but never really got into as much as people like you did. So that was really awesome to see. And then of course, randomly, just this last summer, we see each other at this Weird Al show.
That was
which
best.
Was like, what? That was really amazing. words cannot even describe like what that experience was like running into you there. So
No
yeah, you
doubt.
and I will definitely have to talk more off air. And if you do start to use it a little bit more and start thinking about it, and even if it's just one experience, I'd love to talk to you again if you have more things to say.
Heck yeah, man. I'd be happy to talk about it. And yeah, thank you for having me, and great to catch up, and fun to ponder all this stuff. And
Yeah. I love the things that come up during these conversations I have with people. And I may have to talk to you at some point about possibly maybe making some sort of custom instrument. I have something in mind that I may want made, but I still have to sort of think about it. And, I hope it would be relatively easy, but, building a guitar of some kind, I'm sure, is not as easy as one might think. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about that later.
nice. Yeah, you bet.
Awesome. Well, to all my listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I know I did. And I also hope that you go check out Devin's work and his music. And, if you're in that area, that you go, have him build you a guitar or a lute or something cool, so you can make beautiful music from that too. And so I still don't have a sign-off. I should have a sign-off for this show. I still haven't made one, but I just want to thank everybody for listening. Of course, follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all of those things that I have to say and I have to have these days, because that's how all of this social media stuff works. And all that info is obviously in the show notes. So thank you to Devin. Thank you for all of you, to all of you for listening. And in the next episode, you'll hear somebody else talking about what it's like when they're high. So thank you.